Well, before the Trump victory in November, many different factions were fighting for control of his administration. And if we're being honest with ourselves, Trump has no strong feelings on most things. He's not a policy wonk, he's not ideologically driven, he's pragmatic and patriotic. He's kind of like a battering ram that opens up a lane for others to get stuff done. Or he's like an empty vessel waiting to be filled with the ideas of someone else. Trump 1.0 is a perfect example of this. Being a true outsider, he had limited knowledge of personnel to fill 10,000 different appointments, and thus had to rely on others to make those decisions, inviting a plethora of vipers into his administration. Trump 2.0 is different this time, mostly for the better, but sometimes not. While some believe it is a small group of Silicon Valley tech bros that gain control of Trump, it seems just as likely that the Zionists got there first. It's becoming more clear by the day that the Zionists have won this struggle and are now turning their ire towards the end result of the vibe shift post-October 7th. Oh, sure, mass immigration is a death sentence for the GOP, as well as the country writ large, making daily life increasingly unaffordable for average Americans, including essentials like housing, healthcare, and transportation. But you know what seems to eat up a substantial amount of this administration's bandwidth? Anti-Semitism. In fact, anti-Semitism seems to be one of the only domestic issues this administration truly seems to care about. As the neocons continue in their death spiral, they're reaching out to unlikely allies. Take Ben Shapiro and the ADL's newly founded friendship over the growing threat of global Jew hatred. Make America healthy again? What did you think that meant? Getting rid of harmful vaccine schedules and fluoride in the water? Well, think again. It really means getting to the bottom of a dangerous spiritual and moral malady called anti-Semitism. Kash Patel says we need America to wake up and prioritize Israel. Well, putting that into practice means releasing the Epstein files is a big no-no because it would make Israel and Jews look bad. Therefore, we can't do it. Justice must be put aside to protect Jews. If the truth were to come out, the dangerous and unfounded conspiracy theories around Epstein would cease to be a useful tool to muddy the narrative waters. Kash Patel isn't interested in the truth or justice. He's interested in maintaining the status quo for Jewish power. Despite the system's best efforts, the JQ has gone mainstream. I saw a reel on Instagram of Nick Fuentes that had over 700,000 likes. Not views, likes. Anti-Semitic rhetoric right and left has become so widespread and pervasive that it can no longer be ignored. Although I was a slacker and I never made a video on it, my feeling was that the battle in 2025, regardless of who won, would be about this issue. October 7th was a historic day. In the aftermath, Israel exposed themselves for everyone to see, and now there's a huge faction on both the left and the right that hate them. In short, what we've reached is Chesterstein's fence, the place where if we break through to the other side, Zog loses its death grip on the U.S., and for obvious reasons, Zog cannot allow this. The kosher right is now circling the wagons or chariots or whatever Jews rode around in back in the day to defend against this. At the moment, we're in the hysteria part of the cycle. Good little goyim like Jordan Peterson are dragged out to defend Israel from the dangerous, anonymous, dark tetrad trolls on X who have committed the unforgivable sin of noticing. Douglas Murray is the latest example of this phenomenon. According to him, you're not allowed to express opinions on Israel unless you've actually been to the places involved and seen the war firsthand. If you haven't, because Logistically, this would be impossible to do on a global scale. Well, then you need to sacrifice your critical thinking to the expert class, who are more than happy to feed you the same old recycled narrative we've been fed since October 7th. It's an appeal to authority so blatant, it's stunning. One of the new atheist figureheads, Matt Dillahunty, once said, in talking about his deconstruction process of leaving the faith, that he went to his parents for answers, but they were unable to give a coherent or reasonable response to any of his concerns. He then went to his friends, only to find the same answers. He went to his pastor, expecting a more academic, well thought out, and convincing response, but instead he received the exact same lackluster answers that everyone else provided. And then he went on to ask the same questions to Christian apologists all over the world, and he found that the answers all remained the same. And we seem to be going through something similar with the claims of anti-Semitism rhetoric now. It's the same arguments over and over and over again. These are called Pratts, points refuted 1,000 times. And yet still they're invoked in an argument. Ben Shapiro boldly proclaims that Israel can take care of herself without U.S. intervention. But when faced with Matt Walsh's slight disagreement that it's not your patriotic duty to support Israel, well, Ben can barely get through that statement before he's contractually obligated by Mossad to launch into a diatribe of how, without U.S. support, Israel would face another Holocaust. And it actually is, in fact, your duty as an American to support them. Chesterstein's fence is an idea mostly retold by conservatives, who are predisposed to principles of tradition and the preservation of that tradition. The left is viewed as the ones who break down every fence, every load-bearing cultural norm. And you get the sense that conservatives are on permanent fence-guarding duty, spending all their time running around preventing anyone from tearing a fence down. But what if some fences are worth tearing down? What if the grass is greener on the other side? What if dual citizens couldn't hold public office? What if AIPAC was registered as a foreign agent? What if the U.S. halted aid to a country that bombed our ships, sells our data, steals our nuclear material, and commits genocide against its neighbors? What if U.S. politicians were prohibited from flying foreign flags in their office? These are not crazy proposals like 109 becoming 110. These would be the start to a sensible attitude towards any other foreign country, regardless of our alliance with them. But instead, these proposals would be immediately likened to those of Nazi Germany, and we would have to hear of how Jews everywhere would be 1 second away from being killed by masturbation machines, or frozen in blocks of ice, or turned into lampshades. These are the pathetic arguments against tearing down Chesterstein's fence. It's Godwin's law, over and over and over and over, that any criticism of Jews or Israel inevitably results in a Holocaust, which is a bizarre conclusion. Think of how strong this response is compared to other hot-button issues. You can endlessly point out how overrepresented blacks are in prison or in committing violent crime. You can do that all day and the world doesn't slam down on you. You can point out how overrepresented the LGBT mafia is in our media. Or you could talk about their suicide statistics. That's allowed. You could talk about how disgusting India is and how overrepresented they are in the H-1B visa program. No one cares. But if you do the same thing for Jews, the system launches its immune response because that's just not tolerated. You've hit a major nerve with that one. It's okay to tear down those other fences, but not with the JQ. The fact is that Jews can whine about this all they want, but as long as they continue to act poorly on the world stage, as in they are conflicted on the morality of rape, as they pop out of tunnels in New York City, desperately trying to hide blood-soaked mattresses, as long as they have the Hannibal Directive, as long as they still occupy key positions of power in the government and the private sector, as long as the Wikipedia early life section exists, they're always going to have this problem. This struggle will continue far beyond 2025. The lowest common denominator that factors into the homeostasis of the status quo are boomers. Chesterstein's fence has been and continues to be ferociously defended by boomers. Liberal or conservative, evangelical or atheist, it doesn't matter. They've all coalesced to form an impenetrable wall for 80 years against anti-Jewish sentiments in this country. And when they die, the wall falls. The Holocaust will die out of living memory, and along with it, so too will the Holocaust victim credit card be maxed out. No one will care any longer about why they act like they do. They'll only want it to stop. And that's when Chesterstein's fence gets torn down. Anyways, that's all the time I have for today. If you enjoyed this video and type of content I'm making, consider giving this video a like or maybe subscribing. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.